This video has caused quite some controversy, funnily enough. The Anime Tourism Problem by Joy Bizinger, or it could be Bizinger. I don't know. The problem is with these names, I have no idea how they're pronounced sometimes. Anyways, yep, this video has gained a lot of attention, and to be fair, while we always talk about anime tourism, I'm gonna be honest, this is not a anime issue. This is not an anime issue. So basically, what these people do, these tourists, if you want to call them that, I call them culture eaters, culture thieves, whatever. He's the anime man, obviously, yeah. Whatever you want to call them, right? So what they basically do is, and that goes for all media, right? This doesn't just go for like anime, right? This goes for, well, anime, video games, Warhammer, Dungeons and Dragons, whatever it is, right? He has Godzilla, by the way, up there, which is really based. Heisei Godzilla, to be more specific. These people are at first interested in something, for example, anime, and then they enter the anime space. The problem with this is, though, they eventually realize they don't really like what's going on, right? They like a few things, right? It's mostly shonen people, right? They like a few things. There's, however, many things that they don't like. So what they essentially do is they try to change the hobby. They try to forcefully change the hobby by shaming everything that isn't what they like. Any reasonable person, right, would be like, hey, I don't like this. I'm just gonna consume the stuff that I like, at least, right, that. Or I don't like this, I don't want to be part of this. I'm gonna leave again. That's not what these people do. Also, look at all these old TVs, goddamn. And that is the current problem with everything. That is the current problem with most of our media right now. Most with nerd culture, is that people enter the space, don't like it, and want to forcefully change it. I've seen this enough with VTubing, where like, oh, I don't like this aspect of VTubing. We need to change this. No, this is an inherent part of VTubing, and without it, VTubing isn't VTubing. Very interesting.
Alright, fine. I'll talk about this. God damn it. So,
It took him long enough, not gonna lie. That took him long enough.
normally I wouldn't make this kind of video, but I guess it's been blowing up in my mentions recently, so I figured I would maybe give my 2 cents on the matter, even though there has already been a ton of people who have made their own interpretations on the whole thing. But as the title suggests, let's talk about tourists. And no, I don't mean tourists in the traditional sense of, you know, people you see out and about exploring a country or anything like that. I mean tourists in the digital footprint sense, or more specifically in the subculture sense. You know, people who are just visiting and checking it out, you know, looking at it from the surface and maybe getting a different perspective on it than people who...
I wouldn't really call them that, because a lot of them aren't like that, right? They just, you know, they usually just jump into something and then, like, they don't like it and want to change it, right? They have surface knowledge. Yes, I agree with that. Sure, yeah, they have surface knowledge.
Actually live or are a part of said location. And the same thing can definitely be said for subcultures. And today we're going to be talking about the tourists of one particular subculture that I happen to have been a part of for quite a while now. Anime. I think it's really nobody's surprise that, especially over, I would say, the past 5 years or so, basically ever since COVID happened and everyone was forced to stay inside, and a lot of people...
The worst thing that ever happened to anime was COVID, because then it became mainstream. That is the worst thing that ever happened. The worst thing that ever happened. Not gonna lie. Because then people entered... That should have never... We should have gatekept harder. We should have gatekept... Gatekeep like your hobby depends on it. We should gatekeep more. So people that are not supposed to be there won't be there. Like, the decision makers have to have full control even upon facts or opinions. Obviously, yeah. That's the crazy part, right? These tourists also want to dictate what can be created. Like, they want to dictate what even the original creator can do. Which is very interesting. This happens a lot for like My Hero Academia, right? The one where you have like a very, I don't want to say it, but young mentally ill audience. Sorry?
Over COVID, very much got into anime when maybe beforehand they didn't even have a split thought about it. And it was due to those extreme circumstances that we were all put into all over the world that a lot of people who previously didn't give a rat's ass about anime or Japanese animation of any sorts came out the other end being anime fans, or at least self-proclaimed anime fans. These, ladies and gentlemen, are what we call anime tourists. Or I guess that's what the internet decided to call them, because I only just found out about this term maybe like 2 weeks ago, and it's fucking hilarious.
This has been a thing for like at least months. How are you the anime man, right? Are you the anime man? And you just found out about this 2 weeks ago? What? That's interesting. I got to thank COVID just for one anime. COVID helped Tower of God first season to be a thing. I guess so, yeah.
And especially over the COVID pandemic, and especially with the blow up of things like TikTok and short form media, there has definitely been no ending of this surge of anime tourists who are invading our sanctity in our sanctuous place. And you know, there is one particular video which I'm not going to give any attention to, and I'm not going to mention.
Is it the video with the horrendous ranking that It's a Gundam was talking about? Because I feel like it is.
Names, because I've already used it in the thumbnail, and I'm sure most people are already aware of the situation. If you care to know what it is, then I'm sure somebody, or at least 20-something people in the comments have mentioned their names. But a particular video was, you know, sent to me. Not just, you know, people who watch my stuff, but also personal friends of mine who were like, Joey, you're gonna have to see this video. And it was essentially very much a me-coded video. You know, this is a video that you would have seen maybe on my main channel like 5-10 years ago or something like that, where it's essentially a video of a bunch of anime fans, at least self-proclaimed anime fans, who go and rank every single first...
Oh yeah, it is that one. Chat, it is that horrendous video. That horrendous video that put Dragon Ball in like D or whatever it was, right? Wow. And Astro Boy in like, was it F tier? E tier? I don't know. That horrendous video was it.
First episode of every popular anime from every single year. When I saw that video, I was like, damn, that's kind of a cool idea. I kind of wish I made that video back in the day, or, you know, maybe I can still make it today if you guys want. So I was curious, you know, because it's not often that we get to see anime fans, or at least anime content creators in this platform, talk.
Is that a Chirachi earring? That is a Chirachi earring. Bro has the Wish Pokemon on his ears. You see, that's a Chirachi right there. That's a Chirachi. I see that. Cool.
Talk about the medium from that big of a spectrum. You know, most people are usually very quick to talking about the hot shows that are currently trending right now, or, you know, maybe shows that they grew up with, you know, maybe from like the 2010s or the 2000s or the 90s or stuff like that. But it's very rare that we actually get to see people going through the entire lifetime of anime, at least in the popularity sense, or the popular sense of televised anime from, you know, the 1960s or whatever. You know, I've done a couple of videos like that in the past, as you guys have hopefully watched and liked, and, you know, although I didn't grow up with the older stuff, I try to understand the significance and the history behind it, because the medium itself would be nothing without these giants whose shoulders all of these other...
True, right? I put all Dragon to F tier. Yo, then you have to put Naruto in like G tier or H tier, because you know, without Naruto, stuff like without Dragon Ball, Naruto, One Piece, Bleach, My Hero Academia. To be fair, most of anime would nowadays not exist. So yeah, everything that would come after those would need to put into any lower tier. Just saying.
Shows have stood on. But man, this video, This fucking video. It was, not up to the standard that I was hoping for. Look, this isn't supposed to be some kind of like drama video, obviously. You know, I don't give a fuck about that kind of stuff, but I just find it really amusing as to just the visceral reaction that the online anime community had towards this video. Like, God, I don't think I've ever seen such a visceral reaction to an anime video in my 12 years of being an anituber. I thought I had...
See, the problem is, usually also the discussions of these tourists go around the same thing, right? The lollies, the fan service. I've recently seen the surge of the discussion around fan service again. Oh, we need to change Japan as a whole because of their predatory culture. And I'm like, first of all, that's very racist. Second of all, you don't want to. If we look at Japan, right, and we look at SA, right, per 100,000 people, in Japan it's 1.7 people out of 100,000. In the UK, it would be 26 out of 100,000. Very interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. Sorry, Naruto is A tier because of Sasuke. I would put Naruto into B tier. B tier or C tier because too much filler. As an anime, of course, too much filler. Female characters are written horrendously. That's just the truth. That man cannot write female characters. And I would actually put the One Piece anime into B or C tier, probably B tier, because same issue. The anime, right? The anime is horrendously dragged out, in my opinion. And I would straight up put My Hero Academia in D tier, not gonna lie. And that's mostly just because I really dislike the community surrounding it. Anime is for kids, okay? Let me show you your kid Berserk, Blood Z, what other? I mean, a lot of old Dragon Ball had a lot of gore, so even that you couldn't directly show like an 8 or 7-year-old. What else do we have that we could show kids? There's a plenty of stuff that you could show that you could name that is not for kids. Yeah, go ahead, show a child monster. Go ahead, do that. Sure. Naruto more like Miruto. It's not bad. I think it's a good anime, but the anime has too much filler. That's just a cold, harsh truth. But hi, Aitsu. How you doing? Hope you're doing good. Anime can be for kids or adults. It really depends on what anime you're watching. True. I mean, they literally have an anime dedicated to kids. With like a bajillion episodes, because that thing has been running for like multiple decades.
Some bad takes. I have been thwarted. And I had a lot of people being like, Joe, you gotta make a response video to it. You gotta make your own version of this video. You gotta come back and save Anitude, bro. And you know, look, I respect that. And I appreciate all of those kind comments. So if you did, you know, on social media and stuff like that, kind of, you know, weirdly defend me in a weird way, even though I had nothing to do with this video, thank you. But I think I want to use this opportunity instead to just kind of talk about the more broader underlying issue, the elephant in the room, if you will. Because anime tourism, or anime tourists, are a kind of a real thing. And, you know, even though this may be the first time I'm talking about it in a long-form video like this, I have been kind of subtly talking about it, you know, using my short-form content on, you know, things like Instagram Reels and TikTok and stuff like that, which, you know, if you missed that whole train, check this video, links in the description. There is a big reason why I, personally, kind of took a break from making anime content, and it was basically because of this very issue. Like, a lot of people think this whole anime tourism thing started only, like, recently. Like, I'm talking, like, a couple of years ago. No,
Nah. It's been always a thing, right? It's been always a thing. But the problem is that... The problem is that it's never been as much as it is right now, right? Where it has, like, actual effects on anime, right? Was it called Bocce the Rock? I could be wrong. Was actively censored. Which is really interesting. and even the author didn't know apparently about it. Or My Dress Up Darling is constantly being talked about as like, oh no, the fan service. Bro, these are pixels. These are pixels on the screen. Why are you crashing out? Speaking of terrible takes and tourists, for the past year, I've watched the monster taming community hinder the future of the genre. They will end up having to accept anything from major EA-type companies. True. I haven't really looked at that much. The only thing I'm seeing is that I do feel like there's too much. I know that, like, right, Pokemon is, like, #1, right? But I've also seen, like, a lot of, like, too much orientation on that, in my opinion. Could just be me.
This problem has been around for quite a while now. As much as I think that, yes, it is a problem in a weird way, I do also think it's an inevitability. So to start with, why is it a problem? Why is anime tourism or anime tourists a problem? Well, it's a problem for a number of reasons. And I think the biggest one may have to do with, you know, the perspectives of those who have been in the anime community, the online anime community, for as
I think one of the major issues is that if you don't shut these idiots down, they're gonna overtake spaces, or they're gonna be too loud to where it affects the actual work of works of creators. That could be a problem. Basically, eventually you'll have people running something that are technically not even the ones consuming it. Right, we've seen that plenty of times with lots of video games and lots of other media where, like, companies cater to audiences that are not consuming their media.
As long as it's been around. Basically, I would say since, like, the early 2000s, you know, maybe the early 2010s, at least on YouTube and stuff like that. Because believe me, when I started the Anime Man channel back in 2013, there wasn't really an AniTube community. There wasn't really an anime community. There were, of course, yes, you know, great AniTubers who came before me and who were around before I came onto the scene, and there was most certainly an anime community online on things like forums and stuff like that. But it wasn't so much a community as just
back in the day where it was cringe to watch anime. You watch that kid stuff. Back in the dark ages, at least here in Germany, was the dark ages. We're like, there were two categories. You were bullied for watching certain things, and you were bullied if you were not watching certain things. Because, for example, not watching Dragon Ball was a major problem if you were in school back in the day. That was a major issue. Because you just couldn't talk with anybody.
It's like a gathering. Because the medium was so still niche, and especially new in the Western world, and especially on the online Western world, that there wasn't so much a community of sorts. And it wasn't really until, I would say, like, mid-2010s that it really started to become this, like, community, if you will. You know, because before then, it was very common in the real world, and I was a big victim of this, that if you came out and said that you liked these Japanese cartoons, you would just be bullied for it. Oh, you...
Remember, this has also been recently going on, the gaslighting of anime fans. The gaslighting of anime fans. Where people who just newly joined were like, oh, you weren't bullied back in the day, right? You weren't bullied back in the day. Nobody bullied you for watching anime. Yes, we were bullied. Of course we were. We were bullied for generally nerdy things. The fact that they are trying to basically make it seem so that our perception of reality is wrong when we were bullied for our nerd shit, essentially. Yeah. Shut up. Shut up. Oh, not the 21st September. No.
You like these weird Japanese cartoons with, like, your anime schoolgirls and blah, 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 blah. I mean, trust me, I was there. I got bullied for it in school, you know.
Same. Most certainly. Most certainly. People were 100% bullied back in the day, for sure. Absolutely.
Not only being the only remotely Asian kid in my school, but the only kid really who knew about this weird and wonderful world of Japanese cartoons. And so imagine my shock when, over the COVID pandemic, especially, and even a little bit before then as well, I'd say ever since the rise of TikTok, all of a sudden, those kids who were definitely at school bullying those kids who loved watching anime, then turned around and went, hey, you know what?
See, that's the funny part, right? So when I was watching anime already in like primary school, right? And I was the only kid that watched anime in primary school. And then once I went to middle school, well, I was bullied in those grades, obviously. And then when I went to middle school, I finally found people that also watched anime. And ironically enough, it was like almost all the Turkish dudes. Which was really interesting, like really interesting that I noticed that now, was all the Turkish dudes that watched anime. For sure. Being seen with anime items would be like being caught with meth. I remember anime started to be accepted around 2010, 2011. Yep, that's where it became, because there were also a lot more YouTubers and stuff, right? That also came around in the US. That happened here around the same time too. Yeah. Maybe like 1 or 2 years later. I wouldn't know. I used to be one of the bullies. I was just fitting in with my friends at the time. Unforgivable.
Anime is actually kind of cool. Because, God, let me tell you, you kids today, I don't want to sound like an unk straight off the bat, but you kids today have got it fucking easy. We ran so that you guys could walk. Now you don't get bullied for liking anime. You get bullied for liking the wrong anime. Can you imagine the amount of...
Yeah, the amount of people calling others PDFs because the anime takes place in the anime takes place in high school or stuff is beyond me. That is beyond me. Especially, like, it could just be, right? That's like the crazy stuff I've seen, right? People call The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity a incel gooner anime, and I'm like, how did you make that happen? How did you make that one how did you make that happen? How? How did you come to the conclusion that one of the more innocent, actually, probably top 3 most innocent romance anime is gooner bait and incel stuff? How does this happen?
Privilege that comes with. But all jokes aside, you know, there is most certainly now, because anime has become so much more of a mainstream thing and so much more of a hip and cool thing and an okay thing to enjoy, there is certainly now a new group of people who previously, again, did not even want to say the word anime out loud, but, you know, didn't take the medium all that seriously. And then now, because of things like shorts content and because of the COVID pandemic pushing everybody inside for years and years, and basically people getting so bored to the point where they're like, alright, fine, let me give this anime thing a go.
Sent them outside again. Sent them outside again. Sent them off the internet, thank you.
And then ending up enjoying it, it created a bunch of anime fans. And let me just say right off the bat, I don't think that being an anime tourist is necessarily all a bad thing. I think everybody went through that phase at least once in their life. I think when back in like the early 2000s and stuff like that, or like the 2010s, if you started getting into the anime,
I don't think that people call others tourists for starting out anime. That's not what it is. That's not what is happening. It's more so that you have these half-wits barging into the media and are like, I don't like this, we need to change this, that, and that. That is the problem. No matter what it takes. And if we have to bully people to accept what we want. Basically, that is what it is, right? It's people barging in, being like demanding of like change, and not like others who would be reasonable, right? And are like, hey, I don't like this. I'm not gonna interact with it like any reasonable person would.
Community, stuff like that. I think everybody at one point was an anime tourist, but we didn't call them anime tourists. We called them weeaboos. It's like kind of the same thing if you think about it. It's just like, now it sounds less like a slur. You know, what is a weeaboo? A weeaboo is essentially just somebody who is non-Japanese, who loves anime so much to the point where they think they understand everything about Japan and Japanese culture and Japanese subculture, but in reality they are completely misguided and base all of their information off of fictional Japanese cartoons. And they create their entire personality around that so that they could fit in with a niche and fit in with who they think they actually are. It kind of sounds like an anime tourist. You know, it's essentially the same thing. But here is where I would differentiate a weeaboo from an anime tourist. And this is purely just my personal definition, so if you think otherwise, I'd love to know down in the comments, alright? I think the biggest difference between an anime tourist and a weeaboo is that anime tourists think that their opinion on anime is more correct than everybody else. What do I mean by that? Well, I think that a lot of these like anime tourists very much, you know, again, started watching anime over the pandemic and therefore have
I would more so say that they're trying to forcibly project their idea and their morals of how things should be onto anime and onto Japanese culture. That is what I see. And well, obviously, I wouldn't call a tourist somebody who's even actually I wouldn't even put them in the same box as weeaboos, because well, tourists really just have very much surface level. Kids don't think TV represents reality, not in anime, not in anything. You would be surprised how many adults have fiction derangement syndrome, where they cannot different. And I'm not talking about kids. I'm talking about adults. I'm talking about grown-ass men and women who are like, who cannot see the difference between reality and fiction. Genuinely. You'd be surprised if you were on Twitter, the amount of people that cannot differentiate between reality and fiction, where we have to make jokes like the height of the height of consent, or the heads of consent, or the eyes of consent. It is crazy. Hi Eliza, how you doing? Hope you're doing good. Hello.
Only really been exposed to, let's say, the past 5, maybe give or take 10 years of anime. And don't get me wrong, in the 10 years of anime, since 2015, anime has certainly changed. You know, the type of shows that get big have changed, the quality has fucking increased, and there have been a lot of merits to the evolution of anime in the past 10 years. But I think at the same
yeah, but we also have a slight danger coming up, and that is mostly, I'm gonna be honest, Crunchyroll. See, Crunchyroll owns 50% of the market share, which means that if they are going to own more and more, they will eventually decide what gets to be made and what gets to not be made, which can become an issue for more niche projects. Would simply put, depending on the height, for example, of a fictional character, they will basically think that it's a child and deem it as not appropriate. That's a word I would use. Or they see, like, for example, characters with big eyes and consider that a child, right? Or certain other characteristics, and then they will call you they will try to call you somebody that loves children. I guess that's the word, that in a bad way, obviously, when that's not the case. That's the most innocent way I can explain it.
Time, anything that falls outside of the scope of the past 10 years, and anything that falls outside of the scope of how they think anime is and how they think anime should be, is deemed as wrong or incorrect. And I think that's why you get a lot of these like newer anime fans now who hype up these current shows, you know, these like big shonen shows, you know, like Solo Leveling or Attack on Titan or Jujutsu Kaisen.
Mid-leveling. That's what I'm gonna call it. If you want to consume, I'm gonna say, if you want to consume Solo Leveling the correct way, grab the manhwa. Grab the manhwa. Because the anime misses a lot of important stuff that is important for the character development of these characters. It doesn't already not have that much character development, but still, it adds to that, right? You can still watch the anime fine, but I suggest picking up the manhwa. There's some anime characters that are intentionally designed to look childlike. Obviously, yes, obviously. That might be the case, sure. But here's my hot take. I don't give a rat's ass about lollies. I'll be so honest. I do not care. I could not care less.
And stuff like that. And think that every anime that should be praised needs to fall under that same exact umbrella. That's like listening to a rock band and thinking that all music needs to sound like rock music for it to constitute as music. Which is ridiculous for me to even say out loud. They don't understand that, you know, not only has anime evolved over the past 10, even 5 years, but, you know, if you go back to like 2000s anime, or 90s anime, or 80s, or 70s, or 60s anime, the art and the medium has evolved vastly. Just like how Led Zeppelin sounds completely different to, say, you know, Muse, you know, just as a broad example, right? It doesn't justify the fact that Led Zeppelin is no longer relevant or it's crap or it falls outside of music. That's what these anime tourists, at least from what I have seen online, claim. You know, they think that they have entered this space and gone and looked around and gone, hey, everything that is like not epic fights and shonen and amazing animation and hype doesn't fall under what I constitute as a good anime, therefore it must be bad. I don't remember where I saw it.
Or that's, yes, also that is more so hoodweebs being like everything that isn't shonen is ass, right? That I wouldn't more so classify as hoodweebs. Only one anime I knew probably better in anime rather manga, but some anime were crimed against their source. Well, it's kind of weird, but it's not as bad as actual CSAM, even though people often conflate them. Yeah, people often conflate them when that's not the same, true. The same way Game of Thrones betrays the books. Oh yeah, I'm aware. I have three of the books. I have the first 3 books. And I've read them. So there's that. So yeah, it's just Solo Leveling started to get like One Punch Man with the plot armor. That man has only plot armor. That man has obviously he's the main character, so he won't die. But realistically, it's like hella plot armor. I mean, it is written to be a power fantasy, right?
But I remember seeing a comment on like a TikTok or a YouTube video or something where somebody called these anime tourists or at least this new rise or era of anime tourists as the Columbus era of anime. You know, much like
true. Now that he mentions it, interesting viewpoint. I mean, they are essentially colonizing a space that technically, if you want to put it like that, isn't theirs. It's really interesting.
Like Christopher Columbus, who went to the Americas, mistook it for India, and called the natives now a term that I'm not allowed to say anymore, and you know, claimed the land for themselves because you know, he was like, well, I discovered it, and fuck all of you guys. This is my place now. And I was like,
that's a bit okay. That's the one that I've seen most people cry about, that take, but it needs, I guess it takes radical comparisons to get the point across. And in its core, that isn't too wrong. Yes, that isn't too wrong. Yeah, I'd agree with that. It does have a similar feeling to that. Notebook, I mean the later part of Game of Thrones where there are no more books of the show, butchered everything good about it. Yeah, obviously that. But I'd still say that the books are better than even everything before that. Even with the books, it's better. Books, that is. Wow, so now I understand the frustration of anime fans.
Holy shit, this is exactly what these anime tourists are doing. They're like coming to these unfamiliar lands, planting their flag in the soil, and going, we own this land now, out of the way, previous people. Your opinions are irrelevant now because you are old and your time is up and you don't know what good anime is anymore. But at the same time they claim all of this, they don't respect the history of the medium, they don't respect how the evolution has happened, they don't respect the cultural significance behind the evolution of the medium. They just look at it as something like cool and pop and fun, and a good way to get the attraction of the huzz. Yes, I did die a little inside saying that out loud. And you know what? I'm thinking about all of this and sitting here and talking about it and being like, shit, am I the problem? Like, have I just turned into such an unk now that
No, you're... I think what you're running past is that these people really just have surface level of information about anime. It's really surface level. It is really surface level. And what you're getting past is that it's not like, oh, this is not good anime or this, right? What you're running past is that these people think that if you watch certain anime, that you are essentially problematic. I hate that word, by the way. Problematic is such a stain, but that's the word they would use. No offense to anyone, but whenever I see an anime, there's an adult that's smaller height. It reminds me of the Matthias attorney at law, especially the actor who's 3 feet, shortest queen, animateur going back to the colonizer roots. Crazy. That's a terrible slang. Good slang is obvious because it's fun to adopt. True.
I can't accept the fact that the online anime community has changed and the ethos of it has been replaced by these new and fresh faces and these darn kids nowadays coming to take over the land that we once held the flag on. You know, I don't know, because I'm sure there's a couple of people in the comments who are saying that exact thing, being like, huh, alright, Unk, you don't even watch anime anymore. Well, you know what? Maybe there's a fucking reason for that. Maybe it's because the way that I see the anime community now is not the same anime community that I was a part of and I grew up with. And I'm sorry if that makes me out to be an unk, but trust me, kids, you will feel this in about 5-10 years from now, whether you like it or not. Now, in saying all of this, there is, in my opinion, one positive thing that came out of this influx of anime tourists. And it's the fact that it really made the anime industry take itself a lot more seriously. Because we wouldn't have nearly as many anime movies, like big budget, big screen anime films. We wouldn't nearly have as high of an anime.
Obviously, that is the truth to that. The medium needed change for it to be successful. It's just that I don't want these people.
Quality and production quality as we do now. We nearly wouldn't have as many just shows being made if it wasn't for this new influx of this demographic that was previously uninterested in the medium. Regardless of how you like to view anime today and how quote-unquote mainstream it has gotten, I think as an anime fan, we like to see the medium evolve. We like to see the medium get better in terms of just quality. Like, regardless of whether you don't like One Piece, or you don't like JJK, or you don't like Solo Leveling, or you don't like all of these, like, big mainstream shows that are getting these, like, movies now, you can't deny that a lot of these shows look absolutely fucking gorgeous. Like, I've only seen clips.
Very true, very true. That's why people say the only thing that Demon Slayer has is animation.
Of the new Demon Slayer movie that is out in cinemas right now, and it's fucking astonishing how good this fucking movie looks. Like, it's almost making me consider going to go watch it, even though I didn't even finish season 2. A couple of days from now, the new Chainsaw Man movie is coming out, and I didn't think that there would be...
Oh wait, there's a Chainsaw movie? A Chainsaw Man movie? I didn't even know that. Good night, Yuri. Rest well. Nighty night. Disney remakes. I'm against remake of anything. Okay, Game of Thrones deserves a remake. One say that, but that's one day, but that's it. Well, bro changed his mind very quickly, but no remakes. In the same sentence.
Be able to get better at the animation from the anime series, but just from the trailer, yeah, it looks freaking incredible. Like, we would not have anything like this if it wasn't for these anime tourists. Like, if anime was still just as niche of a thing in Japan, or especially in the West, we wouldn't be getting shows like this. We would probably still be stuck in, like, you know, early 2000s quality, which, you know, I have a soft spot for, don't get me wrong. That was my freaking childhood. But at the same...
Yeah, but the problem is these people hate the medium. That's the problem, right? That's the problem he's running past, is that these people don't even like what they're watching. They don't even like what they're watching. They're watching something and be like, that's so problematic. But they continue watching it, by the way. Or they're, right, the people who say, like, the same people who say, like, yes, lollies are CSAM, but then post the lolly on their Twitter account. Frankly, technically committing a crime in their own logic. Okay, Chainsaw Man movie called the Rise movie. Okay. Nah, I've heard of that. But I haven't watched Chainsaw Man anyways. I need to do that as well. The only thing I know from Chainsaw Man is that there's a panel where homie got jerked off. Anyways.
Time, I can also recognize that a lot of the shows don't look that great and haven't really aged all that well. And you know what? In a weird way, this kind of influx of anime tourists has also kind of taken me out of retirement. Again, I mentioned this in my previous video where I talked about reels, or, you know, the fact that I started making more short-form content revolving around anime. These, like, I guess, quote-unquote anime tourists, if you will, that I have seen on things like TikTok and Instagram, have almost inspired me to start talking about anime again, because, my god, I thought I had some bad takes on anime. It almost inspires the bully in me to be...
Bro is almost inspired to talk about anime again because of how shit the content is. Like, they continue because it's popular now. They like individual decision-making skills. Yeah, I'd go along with that. I don't watch anime because the way the mouths are animated annoys me. Interesting. Interesting.
Be like, hey, you know what? I feel like I need to teach these kids what actual anime criticism and opinions are all about. And it's so fucking funny to me, the amount of people, every time I upload like an anime related short or an anime related TikTok, or, you know, I comment on...
You know, one of the takes recently that got me absolutely triggered is about Giselle from Bleach. That one actually made me crash out a little. Not gonna lie. Because it's very obvious that the character is using femininity to trick his enemies into thinking that he is a girl and to manipulate other women to get close to them. And he only refers to himself as a woman to get out of crazy situations. And even the Japanese words for him are used in referring to him as a male. I find that made me crash out when people call that character female when he is in fact not female, but actually just a creep and manipulator. What is it with trans people wanting that kind of representation, by the way? It's really odd. To be honest, anime is dead. Even if I find good anime, we're probably only 12 episodes with, you know, 4 years wait next season. It's a hype killer. Yeah, true. Hey, but good anime take a while, right? Would you rather have multiple seasons, but they are mid in quality, or like one season, one every 2 or 3 years? That's the question.
The video that inspired me to make this video, just the amount of people either like apologizing to me, being like, we owe this man an apology, or the fact that people are like, I don't know, genuinely excited for me to come back to talking about anime and stuff like that. Look, at the end of the day, what am I trying to say here? Am I trying to say that, hey, go out there and bully all the anime tourists off the platform, or that, oh, anime tourism has ruined the sanctity of Japanese cartoons? No, I'm not really saying any of that at all. I think, if anything, if you are an anime fan who is not an anime tourist, and you're saying all this thing about, like, you know, get all the anime tourists out of here and stuff like that, I just don't think, you know, you should take them all that seriously. I personally have been having...
I think you should make an attempt at least correcting them and educating them. And if they don't want to be educated or corrected, you can literally tell them to fuck off. Do you get videos from recommendations, or you find them yourself? Depends. Sometimes I do find them myself. For example, if something's talked about on Twitter, I'm like, that sounds interesting. I could watch that. Also, hi, Jimmy. How are you doing? Hope you're doing good. Yeah, I don't find them directly myself, right? The algorithm feeds them to me. And oftentimes also, like, recommendations. That's also, yeah. YouTube pushes what they want. That's also true. Well, this one was talked about on Twitter, so that one I found on Twitter.
A lot of fun just kind of roasting anime tourists and, you know, just kind of in a funny way making fun of them for their bad takes, because at the end of the day, that's all it is. They're just opinions. And yeah, you know, some people might be like, oh, but you know, if you have a big following online, then you have some responsibility to, you know, give the right information, blah blah blah. But you know, at the end of the day, they're all just opinions, man. If you want to believe that solo leveling is the next
but depending on the reach of that person, right? The thing is like this one, right? The thing is like this, right? The core issue is that when they become too much, they will have influence on the industry, and then they may destroy things that, right, we like. That's the problem. If they become if the mask, this cancerous, I'm gonna call it a cancerous mask because that's really what it is, becomes too big, then it may have influence on projects. It may lead to projects failing. It may lead to projects getting cancelled. It may lead to harassment and bullying. And I don't think that's something we want, in my opinion.
of Jesus, or you want to believe that Astro Boy is the greatest anime ever created, that's cool, dude. You can feel that way. That's totally valid. But what these anime tourists need to realize, that as valid as it is to have opinions like that, you're also not free from any criticism either. So look, I'm not going to drag on this video much longer. All I'm going to say is this. If there are any people watching this video who identify as an anime tourist, or as someone who maybe got into
an anime tourist doesn't call themselves an anime tourist. That's the problem. That's the issue. An anime tourist doesn't call themselves an anime tourist. They themselves don't even notice that they're tourists.
Anime over the COVID pandemic, I'm first of all going to say, welcome. One thing you will come to learn very quickly is that the anime community, the online anime community, are the biggest bunch of unforgiving dickheads on the internet. But at the same time, don't take it all that seriously, okay? Just chill, take your time with exploring the medium, and I think most importantly, come to appreciate the medium for what it is. Even though you personally may not agree with all of the different aspects that make anime, for example, you know, all of these like high school romances, or these questionable ages that some of these characters have, or some of the fact that, I don't know, older anime are maybe boring to you, or anything like that. Just try to understand and try to appreciate the culture and the sub.
He only, right, I understand, right? He only found out about 2 weeks from when this video was made, right? He does not touch upon the subject of these people wanting to essentially cancel you if you watch certain anime. That doesn't happen, right? They don't just call you boring, or they just don't call your anime, like all the anime, right, ass. That's not what's happening. What's happening also is, on the side, is like, oh, you watch this anime with I don't know, a character that looks younger, you must be a PDF. Which is a problem. It's like that war ant meme. They out themselves unknowingly. True.
Culture for what it is. Because regardless of whether it goes against what you morally believe is correct or superior, it ain't gonna change for you. You are just one person who watches Japanese cartoons going against 70 years of history that was created by a bunch of Japanese people back in the 60s. Just enjoy those.
If there can be one, there can be two. And if there can be two, there can be four. And if there can be four, there can be 400 and thousands. That's the problem. These guys can also multiply like, these guys are gonna multiply like rats. That's the problem. These guys breed like rabbits. To be honest. If you only watch lolly anime, I'm gonna side-eye you. Sure, you can do that. I personally have no interest. I don't get the appeal, to be fair. I do not get the appeal, but hey, it's fiction, so I don't really care. By the way, Poke, it doesn't take that long to make anime. The delay for 2 reasons. One is they got to be picked out of a bunch of options. Yeah, that's true. 2, they have to wait so the manga can get maximum income from them. The thing is, right? The thing is that it's also right, we have massive delays because there's no people. But they have a shortage of employees that even want to work in that industry due to like the crazy deadlines and like the pressure, right? We have that issue as well, so that may also cause delays. And then of course switching studios, right? That can be detrimental if anybody remembers 7 Deadly Sins.
The shows for what they are, and if you have opinions on some of them, I say don't be afraid to express them. Because you know what? Everyone started off as an anime tourist. It's just that anime tourists back in the day were self-aware enough to maybe, I don't know, take a little bit of time to actually explore the medium before expressing their opinions about it online. And at the same time, we took our time to appreciate the medium for what it is, the art for what it is. Because at the end of the day, regardless of how you view it or not, it is an art. And much like any art medium, there's a history behind it, there is a culture behind it, and it takes a lot of time to like get your foot really into that realm. I mean, fuck, I've been making anime content online now for over a decade, and I still go out and want to learn more about the medium and you know, learn about how it came to be and what it will become. Because yes, even though there are a lot of shows in the medium that I absolutely love, and some that I absolutely despise, and a lot that I still haven't seen yet, I want to know more about the medium, and I love the medium for what it is. And if you are one of those people who don't appreciate the medium, don't understand the medium, don't give a shit about the history, don't give a shit about the cultural significance of all of this, maybe don't make a tier list video trying to dissect every single anime.
That's very true. That is very true. So it should be reserved for the people wanting to change the medium, not new anime fans. That is what that's what I'm saying, right? He misses the point that these people want to change the medium. They're not like, oh, you know what? Dragon Ball is ass. Solo leveling is the greatest creation by man, right? That's not what is happening, right? These people come in and are like, I don't like that. We need to change that. I don't like that. That's the thing. Animators do work as hard as slaves, but using them on anime delay is a lie. The company wants they give fair gap for the animator or hire more assistants. No, as far as I'm aware, they genuinely have an employment crisis when it comes to anime studios. They genuinely don't have employees. They have a shortage of young talent coming into the industry. They don't have enough animators as far as I'm aware. So obviously, some things will be prioritized over others, right? Which creates the delay. It makes sense that if you have no workers, that means you also can't produce. Simple math. Gigi Murin, nearly 8 hours of singing September over and over. Yikes. Yep. I agree with him on some points, right? Like these like baby tourists, right? These like not tourists, right? He talks more about new anime fans. He doesn't talk about the current persisting issue of these people wanting to change the medium. I do agree with him on some points, however, that we need to tolerate these people and if anything, educate them. Anyways, like, comment, and subscribe.